I never thought I'd see my mother's last gift sink to the bottom of a pool while my sister-in-law Amanda's laughter echoed across the patio. But here we were, at another perfect Matthews family barbecue, where I watched the last piece of my mother disappear beneath the chlorinated water. The ring wasn't particularly valuable in monetary terms, a simple silver band with a small opal that caught the light in ways that reminded me of Mom's eyes. But it was the last thing she pressed into my palm before cancer took her 3 years ago. "Keep it safe, Kate," she'd whispered. "It'll protect you when you need it most." At the time, I thought it was just the morphine talking. Now, watching Amanda's perfectly manicured hand cover her mouth in mock surprise, I wondered if Mom had somehow known I'd need strength to deal with the Matthews family. "Oh no," Amanda gasped, her designer sundress shifting as she took an exaggerated step back from the pool. "It just slipped right out of my hand. But honestly, Kate, you shouldn't bring such delicate items to a pool party anyway." My husband Jack stepped forward, his face reddening. "Amanda, that was Mom's ring." "Oh please," she cut him off, waving her hand dismissively. "The diamonds on her wedding ring, the real family heirloom, as she loved to remind me, caught the sunlight. It was just costume jewelry. I'm sure we can find another one at Target." I remained eerily calm, watching ripples disturb the pool's surface where my mother's ring had disappeared. 5 years of dealing with Amanda's accidents had taught me patience. 5 years of watching her orchestrate little humiliations while maintaining her image as the perfect Matthews wife had taught me to wait. "It's fine, Jack," I said quietly, reaching for my bag. "Amanda's right, it's just jewelry." The tension around the pool was palpable. Other family members shifted uncomfortably in their lounge chairs, pretending to be absorbed in their phones or drinks. They'd all witnessed Amanda's subtle campaign against me since I married Jack: the backhanded compliments, the misplaced wedding invitations, the convenient forgetting of my food allergies at family dinners. But this was different. This was my mother's ring. "See," Amanda's voice dripped with false sweetness. "Kate understands. Now, who wants more sangria?" I made it with fresh organic fruit from that adorable little farmer's market. Actually, I pulled out my laptop from my bag. Before more drinks, I thought we could all watch something interesting. The USB drive felt warm in my palm. Amazing how something so small could hold such explosive truth. Amanda froze, her perfectly highlighted hair catching the breeze. For a split second, I saw fear flash across her face before her practiced smile returned. "Oh honey, nobody wants to watch videos at a pool party. Besides, the sun's too bright for screens." "Don't worry," I smiled, connecting the USB drive. "This won't take long. Just some old footage I found recently, from Las Vegas about 10 years ago." The sangria pitcher slipped slightly in Amanda's grip. What are you talking about?" 10 years ago, before she married Jack's brother David, before she crafted her image as the perfect suburban wife and PTA president, Amanda had a different life. A life she'd buried so deep she probably thought no one would ever find it. "Kate," David stepped forward, frowning. "What's going on?" "Just sharing some family history," I said calmly, turning my laptop screen toward the gathering. "Amanda's always talking about authenticity and being real, aren't you, Amanda? About how some people," her eyes always found me when she said this at family gatherings, "just don't fit the Matthews family image." The color drained from Amanda's face as she recognized the freeze frame on my screen. Her younger self, in a very different setting than this pristine backyard. "This isn't," she started, but her voice failed. "Not what?" I asked softly. "Not the Amanda Matthews everyone knows. Not the woman who posts Instagram perfect family photos and judges everyone else's life choices. You're right. This is Vegas Amanda, the one with a different name, different friends, and very different values." "Turn it off," she whispered, but it was too late. The family had gathered around my laptop, drawn by the tension and the promise of scandal. Even the kids had stopped splashing in the shallow end, sensing something big was happening. "Kate," Jack touched my shoulder. "Are you sure about this?" I covered his hand with mine. "As sure as I was when I married you, despite Amanda telling everyone I was just after the Matthews money. As sure as I was when I kept quiet through every accidental, slight, and calculated insult. As sure as I am that my mother's ring is sitting at the bottom of that pool because your sister-in-law finally showed her true colors." Amanda's perfect facade cracked. "David, don't listen to her. Whatever she's going to show you, it's probably fake. photoshopped or something. She's always been jealous of our family, our success." "Jealous?" I laughed softly. "Of what?" "Your carefully constructed lie. The way you've manipulated everyone around you. The fact that you've spent years trying to convince the family I'm not good enough, while sitting on this secret." I turned to David, whose face had grown increasingly pale. "I'm sorry, David. I know this will hurt you. But after what she did today, after years of watching her hurt people while pretending to be perfect, everyone deserves to know the truth." My finger hovered over the play button. In the silence, I could hear the pool filter humming, birds chirping in the distance, and Amanda's increasingly panicked breathing. "Wait," she stepped forward, clutching the sangria pitcher like a shield. "Please, we can talk about this privately. I'll buy you a new ring, any ring you want." I looked at her perfectly coordinated outfit, her flawless makeup, her desperate eyes. "You know what the funny thing is, Amanda? My mom was right. This ring did protect me. Because the day you started spreading rumors about my suspicious background, I decided to do some background checks of my own. And guess what I found?" The pitcher slipped from her hands, shattering on the concrete. Red sangria spread like blood across the pristine patio, staining her designer sandals. "Time to show everyone who you really are," I said and pressed play. The video started playing, and the perfectly maintained facade of Amanda Matthews crumbled faster than the sangria-soaked glass at her feet. On screen, a younger Amanda, then known as Crystal Rivers, stood behind a blackjack table at the Golden Nugget, her dealer's uniform a far cry from her current Lululemon attire. But it wasn't her former career that made David stumble backward into a lawn chair. It was what happened after her shift. "Turn it off," Amanda whispered again, but her voice had lost its usual commanding tone. "Those records were sealed." Sealed records have a way of unsealing when enough money and determination are involved. I replied calmly, "Just like how you had your friend investigate my background last Christmas." The footage showed Amanda, Crystal, leaving the casino with a man who definitely wasn't David. The date stamp clearly showed this was 8 years into her marriage, just 2 years ago. The man was James Morrison, a high roller who'd lost millions at her table. The same man who mysteriously regained his fortune a month later through an anonymous offshore account. "It's not. I can explain." Amanda's perfectly manicured nails dug into her palms. "David, baby, this isn't what it looks like." "Really?" I paused the video. "Because it looks like you helped orchestrate one of the largest casino scams in Vegas history. Funny how Mr. Morrison's luck changed after those private meetings with you." David's face had turned ashen. "You told me you were visiting your sick aunt in Phoenix that week." "The sick aunt who doesn't exist," I added, pulling out a folder. "Just like the charity foundation where all those fundraiser donations went. Amazing how many people trusted the perfect Mrs. Matthews with their money." The pool area had become so quiet you could hear the ice melting in the abandoned cocktail glasses. Jack's parents, who had always taken Amanda's side in family disputes, sat frozen on their patio chairs. Their precious daughter-in-law, their example of perfect Matthews wife material, was unraveling before their eyes. "I did it for us," Amanda suddenly burst out, turning to David. "For our family. Do you know how expensive it is to maintain this lifestyle? The country club memberships, the private schools for the kids, the charity galas, the weekly spa treatments, the secret apartment in the city, the payments to keep your old Vegas contacts quiet." I finished for her. "Yes, I imagine that adds up." David stood up slowly, his face a mask of betrayal. "What payments? What apartment?" I pulled up another document on my laptop. "Would you like to see the lease agreement? It's under her old name, Crystal Rivers. Very cozy place. Great view of the city. Perfect for private meetings." Amanda lunged for the laptop, but Jack stepped between us. For the first time in our marriage, I saw him look at his sister-in-law with something other than blind familial loyalty. "Kate," Jack's mother finally found her voice. "This is family business. Perhaps we should discuss this privately." I thought about all the times she'd sat silently while Amanda undermined me at family gatherings. All the times she praised Amanda's traditional values while questioning my commitment to family. Like how Amanda privately discussed my supposed gold-digging ways with the entire country club, I asked. Or how she privately suggested to our fertility doctor that my lifestyle choices made me an unsuitable mother. That last revelation caused several gasps. Even Jack hadn't known about that particular intrusion. "You did what?" he demanded, turning to Amanda. But Amanda's attention was fixed on the USB drive still plugged into my laptop. Her eyes had the desperate look of someone watching their carefully constructed world collapse. "There's more, isn't there?" she asked quietly. "On that drive?" I nodded. "Much more. 10 years of secrets, lies, and manipulation. Every scheme, every betrayal, every calculated move to maintain your perfect image while destroying others." "What do you want?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Want?" I laughed softly. "I want my mother's ring back. I want an apology for every cruel word and orchestrated humiliation. I want you to admit to this family that you've been lying to them since the day you arrived. And if I don't," I turned the laptop so everyone could see the screen, "then I'll send copies of everything, the casino scam evidence, the charity fraud documentation, the apartment lease, the offshore account records, to everyone who needs to see it. The police, the FBI's fraud division, the society papers you love so much." "You're bluffing," but her voice trembled. "Try me." I stood up, gathering my things. "You have until tomorrow morning to get a diver to retrieve my mother's ring, and then we'll talk about what happens next." As I walked toward the house, I heard David's controlled voice. "Amanda, give me your phone. Now." Jack followed me inside, catching my arm in the cool darkness of the foyer. "How long have you known?" "About 6 months," I admitted. "After she tried to convince your parents I was embezzling from my own company, I hired a private investigator. Turns out karma has a way of leaving paper trails." He ran a hand through his hair, processing everything. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I touched his cheek gently. "Because you needed to see who she really was on your own. And because," I smiled slightly, "my mother always said timing was everything." Through the French doors, we could see Amanda sitting alone by the pool, her perfect image shattered like the sangria pitcher at her feet. David was on his phone in a corner, probably calling his lawyer. The other family members were gathering their things, making hurried excuses to leave. "You know this changes everything," Jack said quietly. I nodded, thinking of my mother's ring at the bottom of the pool. Sometimes everything needs to change. The sound of splashing made us turn. Through the window, we saw Amanda fully clothed, wading into the pool, desperately searching the bottom for my mother's ring. The next morning, my doorbell rang at exactly 7 a.m. Amanda stood there, her usual perfect appearance noticeably disheveled. In her trembling hand was a small velvet box. "Here," she said, thrusting it toward me. "I had to hire an emergency diving service. Cost me $500, but I found it." I opened the box slowly. My mother's ring lay inside, the opal still catching the light in that familiar way. Something in my chest loosened at the sight of it. "Thank you," I said quietly, slipping it back onto my finger where it belonged. "Would you like to come in?" She hesitated, clearly surprised by the invitation. "Why are you being nice to me, after everything?" "Because I'm like you, Amanda. I don't enjoy watching people suffer, even people who've hurt me." She followed me into the kitchen, where I was making coffee. The morning sunlight streamed through the windows, highlighting the dark circles under her eyes and her unmade face. Without her usual armor of perfect makeup and designer clothes, she looked almost human. "David's leaving me," she said abruptly, sinking into a kitchen chair. "He's already called the lawyers. Something about fraud and separate assets." I placed a coffee mug in front of her. "I'm sorry about that." "Truly." "Are you?" She laughed bitterly. "Isn't this exactly what you wanted? To destroy my life?" "No," I leaned against the counter. "What I wanted was for the truth to come out. What happens next is up to you." "Up to me?" She wrapped her manicured hands around the mug. "You have evidence of federal crimes on that USB drive. My life is over." I pulled a drive from my pocket and set it on the table between us. "Not necessarily. The original files are backed up somewhere safe, but what happens to them depends on what you do next." Her eyes fixed on the small device. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you have a choice. You can continue being Crystal Rivers pretending to be Amanda Matthews, running schemes and destroying lives to maintain your image. Or you can start being honest, with your family and with yourself." "Honest?" She looked lost. "I don't even know what that means anymore." "Start with David. Tell him everything, not just what's on the drive, but why." Tell him about growing up poor in Vegas, about dealing blackjack to put yourself through school, about being afraid someone would discover your past. Her head snapped up. How did you? The same investigator who found your secrets also found your true background. The daughter of a cleaning lady who dreamed of a better life. That's not something to be ashamed of, Amanda. Tears started rolling down her cheeks, smearing what was left of her mascara. You don't understand. The Matthews family, their world, they would never accept someone like that. They accepted me, I reminded her, despite your best efforts to convince them I wasn't good enough. She was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee. I was jealous, she finally admitted. You walked into this family being completely yourself, not caring what anyone thought. I spent years crafting the perfect image, and you didn't even try. Because perfection isn't real, Amanda. And pretending it is only hurts everyone around you. She reached for the USB drive with shaking fingers. So what now? Now you make things right. Start with the charity money. I know you haven't spent it all. Return it. Then talk to David. Tell him everything. If there's any chance of saving your marriage, it starts with truth. And if I do all that, what about the evidence? I stood up, taking my coffee with me. Prove to me you can change, and those files will never see the light of day. But if you ever try to hurt my family again. She nodded, understanding the unspoken threat. As she stood to leave, she paused at the door. Why are you giving me a chance? After everything I did. I touched my mother's ring, thinking of her last words about protection and strength. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is show mercy. But Amanda. She turned back. Don't mistake mercy for weakness. I'll be watching. After she left, Jack emerged from upstairs. He'd heard everything. You're really giving her another chance. I smiled, leaning into his embrace. Everyone deserves one chance to change. Besides, I held up my hand, watching the opal catch the morning light. Mom's ring is back where it belongs. And so am I. 3 months later, at Christmas dinner, Amanda stood up to make an announcement. She looked different, less perfect, more real. She told the family everything, her voice shaking but determined. David held her hand through it all. They were in counseling, working through their issues. The charity money had been returned with interest. The apartment was sold. As she spoke, I touched my mother's ring and smiled. Sometimes protection comes in unexpected ways. Sometimes the truth, however painful, sets everyone free. And sometimes, at the bottom of a pool, we find not just a ring, but redemption.